The biggest political story of 2025 just broke in the last 48 hours. You may not know all the details, and I'm going to give it to you. This involves a 23-year-old investigative journalist, Tim Waltz, Ilhan Omar in Minnesota, and the FBI. Let's get to it.
Video showing misspelled signs, locked doors, empty classrooms even at a Minneapolis daycare center. Now, the state allegedly has also given the center millions in funding. Connor Hansen, live in New York City, with the latest on that for us. Hey, Connor.
Hi, Kevin. Well, for years now, there have been allegations of widespread fraud and investigations in Minnesota, but now there's even more scrutiny following a new video that's gone viral coming from an independent journalist visiting daycare centers in the state that are receiving millions, apparently, in tax dollars with no signs of children there. Take a look.
Can I put my son in a daycare here?
No, I don't know.
Can I speak to someone?
No, I don't know.
No? Yeah, I would like to see if I can put my son Joey here.
Now, 23-year-old journalist Nick Shirley visited one business that couldn't even spell its name correctly, with a sign saying Leering Center instead of Learning. Some had blacked out windows, and most had no signs of children there on a weekday. The viral video sparking a strong reaction from Vice President J.D. Vance, who wrote, "Politicians like it because they get power, welfare cheats like it because they get rich, but it's a zero-sum game and they're stealing both money and political power from Minnesotans." Earlier this month, Minnesota's assistant U.S. attorney said fraud involving Medicaid services likely reached more than $9 billion.
Fraud is not small. It isn't isolated. The magnitude cannot be overstated. It's a staggering industrial scale fraud.
FBI Director Kash Patel just posted on X saying that might just be the tip of the iceberg. Despite mounting criticism aimed at him from the White House and others, Governor Tim Walz has blamed Republicans for the lack of a solution.
So it's not surprising that Tim Waltz is now playing the victim card. What is surprising, though, is this, is that a 23-year-old independent journalist actually just did the job that Kash Patel and the FBI should be doing. This is infuriating and should infuriate you, because what we expect and what we did and voted for Donald Trump, Kash Patel, and Pam Bondi is to make sure that this kind of fraud at this level that Nick Shirley is identified by the authorities, is dealt with swiftly, and that everyone who is breaking the law is dealt with to the fullest extent. But just watch, I'm going to show you, and incidentally, if you haven't yet, this is Nick Shirley's account on X. Definitely follow him. He's a sharp young kid, and he has blown open a huge story that Tim Waltz, Ilhan Omar, and the Attorney General in Minnesota, Ellison, cannot run from. Let's have a listen. I just want to show you the first couple minutes of his expose, because it will blow your mind.
Hello, we'd like to ask where the money's going. What do you guys think about the fraud that's taking place here in Minnesota?
I don't think anybody is enabling fraud to happen.
Hold Governor Walz accountable for this.
What was this money spent on? 1.26 million. What was that money spent on? There aren't any kids.
Answer the question. Are there children? There's no children inside this building. Potentially the largest fraud scandal in U.S. history is taking place in Minnesota, as literally billions of dollars have been funneled through Somali-ran fraudulent businesses. So much fraud, it could actually almost replace the entire GDP of Somalia. These fraudsters have worked hand in hand with the Minnesota government as they enabled billions of dollars to be given to fraudulent businesses underneath welfare purposes. Some of this money eventually landed in the hands of terrorist groups in Somalia like the Al-Shabaab.
This is amazing work by this independent journalist, and again, should make your blood boil. In this short clip, you can see that Nick actually goes to a child care center that's getting government funding and taxpayer dollars. What you see here will blow your mind.
Children here in your child care?
Which child care name is a lot of
Minnesota Child Care right here. It's from the state of Minnesota's website. We're just wondering where the children are.
Where the children are?
Yeah, where are the children? It says you have 102 children here, and you got $2.66 million this year in funding, and $2.5 million last year. We're just wondering where the kids are.
And who are you?
My name's Nick Shirley.
Nick Shirley.
And where are you? Which department?
Oh, we are from ourselves.
It's harassment.
Hello, we'd like to ask where the money's going. Look at that. Shut us down. Where are the children at? No children inside of this daycare center. And look at this daycare center right here. No children inside of this daycare center. But between those buildings, over $2.6 million.
Children here in
Again, a 23-year-old independent journalist is now cracking this story and breaking it wide open, forcing the FBI's hand. Before we get, though, to Kash Patel's response, let's see just how bad this situation is and what the full extent is of this fraud.
Massive fraud is going on here in the state of Minnesota, especially in Minneapolis. Explain to me what's going on with the daycares.
So one of the things that I've noticed is there's an exceptional number of child care centers that are set up mostly in Minneapolis, but also in St. Paul. And I said, wow, how many kids are there in the Twin Cities? Some of them are by my office, and I would watch, and I said, well, there aren't any kids there. And I go to another one, there aren't any kids there, and I'd see just some Somali guys outside smoking cigarettes. So I stopped at one of them, and I said, hey, I'm just wondering, I've got a grandson who's looking for childcare, and I wonder if this might be a good facility. And they said, no, we're all full. And they had the door open, and I looked, and there were no kids. There was like a couch and a table with a couple chairs. And I said, well, are the kids out back playing, or what kind of place is this? And the guy said, you go. And he almost pushed me out the door, and then he followed me down the street to my car. And that's when I said, wait a minute, there's something going on here. And that's got to be maybe 5 years ago. This fraud is so massive. When the dust settles on this, it's going to be found to be the largest fraud in the history of the country and probably the world. It's that big.
This is mind-blowing. So 2 questions that a normal person should be asking. First, where are the Minnesota authorities that should be doing regular audits on any outlet, in this instance, a daycare center that gets taxpayer funding from the federal government and from Minnesota, right? Tim Waltz is in charge of making sure that these are legitimate operations and that there's some discipline and authority and oversight as they pass these monies out. What Tim Waltz, and I'll show you this in just a bit, is doing right now will make your blood boil. His response to what's going on right now with the uncovering of this level of fraud. So just this morning, the FBI has now been going to different organizations across Minneapolis and raiding them. But my question is, why is it taking so long? Why did Nick, a 23-year-old independent journalist, have to force the hand for Kash Patel? Kash Patel just this morning, as you heard from the Fox News clip, took to X. And he said, we will continue to follow the money and protect the children. This investigation very much remains ongoing, as he's talking about deporting some of these Somali nationals. It's not, though, just about deportation, Kash. This is about a almost decades-long fraudulent scheme where foreign nationals are funneling money overseas vis-a-vis home health care agencies, daycare centers, and other. So Tim Waltz, we know what he's up to, but, meaning he has to be aware of this level of fraud. This is no small operation. But Kash, why are you so late to this? What have you been doing, right? This is not what we voted for in America First policies and with MAGA-centered voting. We sent Donald Trump back to the White House for a reason. So now the betting markets are looking at Tim Waltz, and there's now an extreme rise in the last 48 hours that there's a 69% chance that Tim Waltz is charged with a federal crime. But what has Tim Waltz been doing the last 24 hours over this holiday break, as this story is breaking news, quite frankly, across the nation, and across the world as to the extent and the level of fraud that's taking place in Minnesota? This is what Tim Waltz had to say this morning.
Insurance program for you that allows you again to take care of what you.
Sorry, let me turn up the volume here. I'll restart this video.
Insurance program for you that allows you again to take care of what you need to take care of without being forced to choose between your family, your bonding with your child, your own health, and your economic well-being. Because in Minnesota, you can do both, and we've proved that time and time again.
So what is Tim Waltz doing? He's actually doubling down and playing victim. He's doubling down on saying, hey, if you're being threatened, don't worry, we'll take care of you. We're going to continue this funding. But what he's also doing is isolating a victim card while he himself, his administration, are all being asked some very difficult questions. So Tim is doing everything but answer those difficult questions. But let me leave you with this. And this fact alone should show you that this is just the tip of the iceberg. There's presently 42,861 NGOs, non-government organizations, that are handling over $120 billion in Minnesota per year. Just imagine the level of fraud. I agree with this poster on X. We truly are just scratching the surface with what Nick Shirley has uncovered. So what are your thoughts on this? What should happen to Tim Waltz? Do you think that he's going to be implicated with a federal crime? Do you think he's aware? And what about our favorite Congresswoman, Ilhan Omar? What does she know? And when did she know it? This level of fraud cannot just be swept under the rug. And what Kash Patel has done with his delayed response, his, raiding organizations now, just after Nick Shirley got over 80 million impressions on X with his expose, this is not what we voted for. And this shows to me that Donald Trump has to get a replacement for Kash Patel. A delayed response with this level of fraud is not what we want. Not now, not later. And Pam Bondi, you're next. Because again, what have you been doing? What have you been doing for the first 13 months of the Trump version 2 administration? Let me know your thoughts on what you think should happen with Tim Waltz, with Ilhan Omar, and the AG, the Attorney General in Minnesota, Ellison. Should they be implicated? At the very least, should they be investigated and subpoenaed? The American people want answers, and we want those answers now. If you've yet to subscribe to America First Alerts, please do so. We'd love to have you along. We have stories like this every single day, where we're representing the MAGA front and the America First interests in seeding through and navigating all of the fake news media and stories that you need to know. So let me know what you think. Drop a comment down below. We'd sure love it if you liked this video, and we'll see you in the next video.
Okay, let's go.